Hi,
Hey.
everybody. Welcome, welcome. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join us today. And I know, as usual, folks are probably taking a minute to transition from one meeting to the next. So if you're here early, hi. I hope you got some snacks and some beverages to join us for a really good conversation today about moving from competition to compassion. So if you're here, something I always like to invite folks who are joining us is just to drop in the comments, like, what got you interested in this topic today? Like, Ari and I will get a whole hour to talk about why this is important to us, but we also want to hear for those joining us. Yeah, what about these two words in particular that sparked you and your interest as well? So, for everyone joining in today, most of you will know that I usually share just two quick agreements at the top of the call for just like how we want to hold space for everyone. They're pretty simple, but pretty steadfast in the world and the guests that I bring in. So, the first one is just to stay curious, right? So, we are not trying to present like one steadfast or correct way to think about things. There is no right or wrong when it comes to our conversations. It really is just an open exploration of like two very big words we use often in our world, either at home or at work, right? Like we're in competition, or word how do we become more compassionate people? And oftentimes we have these conversations because they're words thrown around. So what do we really mean by them? So slowing down, having that more nuanced conversations. And I'm really excited to have Ari here with me today to do that with. So everyone stay curious with us. And the other one is also just to stay open, right? So this is part of a much larger journey for most of us. Like you're not going to just like go to bed, wake up, great. Now I'm not a competitive person anymore. I've tried that, does not work. Or you wake up and like I'm a way more compassionate person now. So it is an evolution that unfolds. So stay open to how that shows up for you and the people around you as well. All right.
Yes.
So, welcome, welcome to everyone. And as you can see here, I have a new guest with me today. Not so new to me, but new to folks here. And this is Ari. Ari, would you take a minute to introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Well, first of all, Betty, thank you so much for having me here. I've been seeing you just really pop off on LinkedIn Lives, and I feel very honored to be here. I don't do this really often, so I just love the work that you do, and I feel very honored that I get to share this space with you. I also want to invite compassion for us as we're facilitating this
Mm,
conversation. I know that it can be a heavy topic, especially with our backgrounds, and we'll get to that in a bit. But just a little bit about myself. My name is Arianna Dela Rosa, but cool people call me Ari. And I am a career empowerment coach, specifically for folks who identify as first generation and people of color. I really love doing this work. I've been doing this work for the past 5 years, and it's because I believe that growing in our careers without our identities in mind is actually a disservice to us.
mm,
I feel like we can't think about growing in our careers if we don't think about our upbringing, the mindset that we have because of our identity, because of our culture. These are like the unsaid things that we can't talk about in the workplace because we don't know how to. And I bring a lot of that in my coaching. Like, we can be vulnerable and talk about, why is it hard for me to ask for a promotion? Why is it hard for me to advocate for myself? Why is
mm,
it hard for me to speak up in this meeting? So these very like everyday questions we might have that feel like small barriers, it's actually connected to something in our past, in our identities. And I
mm,
I love tapping into that in my work. I'm also a firm believer that a lot of career development stuff, you can just easily Google that. You can easily Google how to write a resume, how to network, how to do all those things. But it would be hard to do those things if we don't do the inner work first to tap into our confidence,
mhm.
values, to tap into our strengths. So I really I focus on the inner work so we can do the outer work. Whether you do want a promotion, whether you want a new job, whether you want to start your own business. So I love that this is the focus that I do. And compassion is a really big part of my coaching as well, because competition is very much embedded in workplace culture, and I would like to challenge that. And for me personally, compassion is one of the main things that helped me excel in my business so far. So that's why I'm here today and why I feel excited. And Yes, I'll pass.
Yeah. I feel like you already dropped the gem of like compassion is what helped me get here because I feel like growing up, that's not something I commonly heard, right? Like it's like
Mhm.
be competitive, be the A student, like make sure you're doing your best, all that. So we'll get into that a bit more as well. But a quick introduction from me. I hope most of you know me because you might be coming through my page on LinkedIn or on YouTube. But for those of you who are new, hi, welcome. You're very, very welcome in the space. My name is Betty Chan. I am an authenticity life coach and speaker. And very similar to Ari, I primarily support folks who are first gen. And if first gen is not your identity, another phrase that I use a lot to describe the people I work with are code switchers. Because regardless of your cultural background, most of us have to navigate this world feeling like we're only allowed one part of ourselves to show up in certain spaces, and then we have to have another version of ourselves. And then maybe there's even versions of us that we don't allow the world to see at all because we don't feel confident about it, or maybe we even feel a little ashamed about how we see those sides of us. So for me, I'm like, it's just such a disservice to us when we walk around the world hiding literal parts of ourselves. And I know it is easier said than done to like show up fully as yourself, especially for first gen folks, because showing up means something a lot riskier at times for folks who identify this way. And we want to be able to create that conversation, that safe space for you to start exploring that. So in my coaching, I work a lot with folks both through the mindsets as well as just a practical way of like, how do I start making those everyday choices to speak my mind, to advocate for what I need? And similar, Ari, sometimes I do that in careers, but oftentimes I also do that within family dynamics and in romantic relationships, and also the relationships with ourselves, which is where the authenticity component really comes in. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I love this because I feel like one of the questions whenever I get into the space with another coach is like, oh, well, you're both working with similar clients, right? And you're both working on similar goals with your clients. So like how do we know who to choose to work with, right? And whenever that question, it's a really smart
Yeah.
question, but I also feel like that puts people into a place of like competition and feeling like there's a right and a wrong choice for them. So that's partly why I really love actually being in this conversation with Ari, is because there is so much room. Like there's plenty of room and enough for all of us. And I actually think the conversation gets a lot richer and more nuanced as well if we get to share this space together.
Oh,
So shall we
absolutely.
start in and dive
Yeah,
into
I'm so excited.
competition and compassion? Yeah.
Yes. I wanted to add something real quick before I ask you a question or ask a question. Um, yeah, I love how you made the note around like, we do similar work, we work with similar people, but seeing it through like a compassion lens, but also an abundance lens, which by the way, if you are compassionate with yourself, you will then lead to abundance. Um,
Hmm.
there's just like, there's so many of our community who need our help, and each of us are like, we're just one person, so there is an abundance of people in our communities that need our help. And I'm always the type of person that's like, if I'm not the right coach for you, I actually like honor that. And I think it's great if you can decipher whether I'm the right coach for you or not. So I love
Hmm.
that there's a lot of us doing this work, serving our community. And yeah, another big reason like why I'm excited to be here with you in collaboration and in compassion.
Yes.
And with that being said, like I think before we even talk about compassion, competition is what I feel
Hmm.
like for a lot of us it was rooted in us first, especially growing up. So I'd be curious to know like what did competition feel like growing up for you?
Hmm. I I don't even think I realized I was growing up in competition until like much older, like maybe into the college years, but then it got very real really fast in the professional space, because then you start to feel like the
Mhm.
question of, can I trust you? Like, can I talk to you about these things when you're looking at a coworker? That came up for me a lot in like my early years of my professional life. So I would say
Mm,
tangibly, now that I think about it, no, I would say emotionally. I'll start there. Like my memory doesn't work super, super well. So I
mhm,
would say like learning competition primarily in the workspace of like who gets promoted, who doesn't. And like as you move up the ranks, right? Like it feels like there's less and less spots available. So the people who you worked with as peers, you start to realize that as you move up into manager and senior roles, like you have to start becoming competitors with each other now because there's only one spot available. So I think that's one of the first times that word came out for me. But if I think back, I would say,
Mhm, mhm.
I mean, school, even school was one of them, right? It's like I come from the New York school system. So a lot of us by the time we got to high school all like had some form of access to the specialized exams, and that was meant to level out the field to some degree, but only certain people got to get in and some people didn't. So I think just the nature of the limited destinations, limited spots, limited resource that are available, I think that was one of the first times I realized I'm like, "Oh, now we gotta compete for this because there's not enough for all of us," which is very different from what we
Mhm.
just talked about of abundance.
Right. I love how you connected competition to limited resources, or like, the negative aspects of competition, because like, I mean, I'll say like competition itself does not have to be a bad thing. Like competition can very much be neutral. When we play video games, there's like a competition we're in. I feel like having some kind of competition like in that level, in a neutral level, like it can be fun. However, when we are thinking of it in like, we need competition to survive because there is not enough for everyone, that's when it can be really embedded in us that we have to be better than everyone around us in order to survive and to succeed. Um, so I know for me personally, it started at a very young age where I literally had to be like one of the best academically so I can like stay in my school. So um,
Mhm.
I went to like a private Catholic school growing up. Technically, I didn't have like my family didn't have the money to put me in that space, but the reason why I was able to stay in that space is because one, my dad was the janitor, or like the person who kind of did all like the hard labor work in the school, but also because I was really freaking smart. So because of those two qualities, it gave me a pressure that, oh, I literally have to keep getting straight A's. I literally have to keep excelling so I can just stay in this
Mhm.
school. And then of course, like going into college, and then going into the workplace where it is very competition is very much embedded of, oh, only these types of people can get promotion, only these types of people can be leaders. Um,
Mm.
and then also too, when we I think with competition, sometimes when we accept that, oh, we're just always going to lose, then it limits us from like putting ourselves out there, and taking risks and trying new things. So yeah, I feel
Mhm.
like, and for me, I think competition started very very early, and I don't think it's healthy when we're comparing that to like limited resources and there's not enough for everyone.
Yeah. I think it always naturally creates that sense of limited resources, right? So it's like I got to go get it. It's like I have to, I should type of energy. And I like that you mentioned video games because I love video games and like
Me
that
too.
is sense, yeah. And like in sports, like I met my partner through boxing and we are still really competitive about boxing with each
Mhm.
other. But there's that type of like I would say I would categorize those competitions as like we're racing against time. Like time is what we're competing against in the game, right?
Yes.
Like but we're working as a team to get something done. And
Yes.
even with my partner in boxing or in sports, I imagine for a lot of folks, the competition can stay in a place where it feels like we're pushing each other to get the best versions of ourselves out of each other. But
Mm,
the thing that really moves into the type of or the flavor of competition that I don't love and always had a distaste of is when, like, I feel like you need to step on someone in order to move ahead. Like, it has to cost someone else something for me to benefit, or I have to be the one to sacrifice something for the person next to me to move ahead, which I think is usually the breed and the flavor of competition that happens in, like, schools and workplaces.
yeah. No, absolutely. And then even like getting into college.
Oh my god,
Um,
yes.
you know, I feel like I still remember being a senior and just like that week when all the college acceptances were coming out and just feeling so much shame when you didn't get into the school you wanted because they can
Mhm.
only accept a certain amount of people. And then it makes you really question like what what is my worth? But really we're all inherently worthy. Um
Mhm.
Competition takes away that just innate fact. Um and that we always
Yeah.
be like working towards something or achieving something in order to be worthy.
Yeah. Like, I feel like a lot of because we grew up in systems of competition, and sometimes it's school, sometimes it's workplace, sometimes it's government resources, and I would say it starts even sooner than that, like, at home. Like, I remember
Mm,
things my mom would say, and, like, I could tell she wanted the best for me, but what she was encouraging, like, left me feeling really confused, and an example is, like,
mhm,
"Don't tell," like, she would always say, like, "Betty, don't tell people what you're good at, because 'cause they're gonna take advantage of you. They're gonna take that away from you." And I even at the young age, I could tell that, like, it was coming from a place of advice and wanting to protect me, but what it left me with this feeling was, like, I had to, like, look over my shoulder, like, "Oh, is my friend going to take that away from me? Can I tell someone?" Like, I loved you said earlier, like, "But I'm really smart," and I'm like, I feel that way too, but I don't think I could say that out loud sometimes because of that
mm,
voice in my head, that caution in my head as well.
mhm. No, I resonate with that too because it's kind of like, um, sorry, I had a brain fart. Wait, no, not me having a brain fart.
No worries. Well, I have those, like, 18 times during these talks, so
No, I'm like, okay, this is what happens in lives. I'm like, brain farts are totally normal. Um,
yeah.
but I think you're kind of like speaking on this next question that I wanted to ask, but
Mhm.
you know, what stories or habits around competition stuck with you the longest?
Mm. There's so many. How do we untangle all of them? Um, I would say the one I shared is definitely still one of them that I'm working to shake off, that, like,
Mhm.
I can say I'm good at something, and it won't be taken away from me. Like, it
Mm,
won't actually be and also it's not taking something away from someone else. Because as someone who grew up with parents who also taught me to be kind, I didn't wanna actively take things away from people, right? So, it's just balancing that line of, like, how do I let people know what I'm good at, especially in the professional context, right? Like, when you're kids, at least you have, like, a standardized test
mhm,
that, quote, unquote, "measures everybody on an equal level." But when you go into professional world, you have to, like, create your own metric to
mm,
let your
mm,
managers know, "Hey, I'm good at this," because they may or may not know how to look and identify the skill sets that you are already bringing, right? So they might be trained of, like, "Okay, the employee I'm looking for needs to be timely, needs to have good follow-up," all good things professionally that we need to have, but they might not know how to say, like, how to, like, leverage my skill set of being a very good listener, being someone who can
mhm,
understand emotions, can hold space for emotions, and for a long time, that was something I offered as in my professional role. Like, I was the one listening to people, I was the one helping people through, like, very emotionally heavy problems in places that didn't know how to talk about emotions,
mhm,
and in a way, like, kind of being adjacent to HR without ever being in HR,
mhm.
right? So I felt sort of ways. I'm like, "Oh my god, am I, like, stepping on HR's toes now? Like, should I not be having these conversations?" But, like,
Wow.
I could tell this person's really stuck and, like, they just need someone they can trust and talk to, and then, to have a manager, it's like, "Oh, you're having professional development conversations that are running way too long. Like, you gotta get more efficient with your meetings," right? So it's like all this information coming from different ways, that I started to, like, not I didn't even know how to be in a professional competition. I'm like, what are the rules here? At least in a video game, I could tell, like, I gotta sprint this much and, like, get the box and
Yes,
win,
yes.
right? But, like, in workplaces, I'm like, I can tell I'm in it, but I don't know what the rules are in
Yeah.
that case. Mhm.
Yeah, again, with video games and just games in general, you're competing with time. Um,
Mhm.
but with something like the workplace, it's an everyday, I guess, mental game of like, what am I able to do? How am I able to show up? And can I show up like authentically without like feeling like I'm stepping on someone else?
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's probably a reason like maybe why people like hold themselves back because they were taught like yes, own your strengths, but also like don't be open about it too much because, someone might use that against you or maybe find
Mhm.
a weak spot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I resonate with that too. And I think for me, something that took me such a long time to unlearn about competition is that, again, at such a young age, I equated that when I would win in academics, when I would win in
Mhm.
competition, I was also involved in a lot of extracurriculars. So when I would win in those spaces, then I was worthy of love.
Mm.
And just getting like a little bit deeper, just having immigrant parents, like Asian immigrant parents,
Mhm.
I think they're figuring out what love means as well. We're like kind of co-creating that, but because they're figuring it out, like, and it's hard for me to figure it out with them, especially since I'm a kid, like I'm still like
Yeah.
developing what love means to me. And they only showed me affection when I would win.
Mm. Well, it
They
makes sense that you learned that then,
Yeah,
right?
they would show me affection, in just everyday, like, um, I don't know,
Mhm.
everyday life. Like, I felt like I only got hugs and stuff when I would get A's or when I would, get a trophy or all of these things. So yeah, that's a really big thing that I've been unlearning is that I don't have to be perfect to deserve love. And we are all inherently worthy of love.
Mhm.
I think, as they're figuring it out, I was trying to figure it out. And even as an adult, I'm reparenting myself that,
Mhm.
hey, winning doesn't mean love. Like, love means love. Like, you can always give yourself that any day, compassionately and with abundance.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
I resonate with that because it's like, well, my parents were the one thing I would say that I appreciate from them is that they didn't encourage me to be that, like, stereotypical Asian A+ student, right? They did give me the message of, like, if you did your best. I know. I was like, I know a lot of us was like, "Damn, I
Gosh.
wish I had." So
I
I'm learning to be grateful that, like, despite my mom, dad also having things they have to figure out, that that was one thing that I do feel like was a gift that I got to experience firsthand from them, but it became confusing because it paired with the messaging of, like, "But don't tell anyone anything you're good at, like, don't let the world see you," etcetera. But I think because of the 2 of them together, I got the sense of, and similar to, like, maybe it wasn't love that I was seeking, but it was belonging. Like, I wanted to belong to a space,
Mhm.
and I couldn't unless, I guess what I'm resonating with is that proving energy, right? Like, I have to prove something, or, like, the assumption in the story is, like, I'm gonna have to be the one to change how I am in order to be accepted. So, like, when we
Mhm.
talked about competition earlier, of like what really sucks about competition is that someone has to lose, someone has to sacrifice. And I was so busy making sure that other people weren't doing it, but I didn't realize that by doing that, I was asking myself to be the one to sacrifice all the time, to
Yeah.
be the one to lose, to voluntarily lose so someone else didn't have to. But I think I was only able to do that because, I had the teaching of, like, don't tell people what you're good at, which then means no one knows what I'm good at, right? To hide it.
Yeah.
And also, I didn't have that requirement from my parents of, like, you have to be the best at everything. So I
Yeah.
was comfortable-ish
Yeah.
losing, but, like, I'm not comfortable not being seen. I'm not comfortable
Yeah.
being passed for promotion or anything like that. So there's some complexities in that version of
Yeah.
competition too.
No, I
Mhm.
love that you brought that up because it really is like different sides of like the same coin where like, yeah, the pressure to win in competition all the time can be related
Mhm.
to self-worth, can be related to like what does love and success mean to you? But then there's also like the fear of competition and not being like too seen, but then that leads to like maybe holding yourself back and then like just being okay, like being the one who is losing or taking a step
Mhm.
back. So I love that we kind of offer these different perspectives in that.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
the thing I've also realized, is that that was a straight shot to resentment for
Mm,
myself,
I
for the
see.
people around me as well, because I think we all, Like, I really appreciate you. Like, we all are inherently loved. We all are lovable, and we all are worthy of being seen as well. But when we have to suppress parts of ourselves because we're taught, it's learned, it's done for competition,
Yeah.
like, it becomes such a harsh way to, like, treat ourselves, and that's when I really realized, like, compassion, and we're going to talk about compassion in two different ways today, which is like self-compassion as well as compassion for each other, like external of ourselves, and that both is necessary to actually help break the cycle of competition, because otherwise you're either eating your own self and your own time and space, or you're stepping on someone else to get ahead.
Yes. Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that's a perfect way to transition, I think, into compassion, actually. I feel like we've given a lot of context about our competition and how that looked like for both of us, different sides of it. And yeah, it's a reminder too that like competition is embedded in our systems in general. So
Mhm,
even if you didn't necessarily feel it when you were young, like we're gonna feel it in school, we're gonna feel it in the workplace, like it's all around us. Um,
mhm.
so I'm curious, was there a moment when compassion towards yourself shifted everything?
Mm. Every dang day.
True, it's an everyday
It's
activity.
an everyday thing. I have to admit, I don't think I was very good at self-compassion. I still think it's a work in progress. It's something I'm still learning in my late 30s, almost 40s. But I would say really, really, I can think back to a clear time in like junior high school where someone showed me compassion and I was like, oh, so this is what it could feel like. And it was the most silly junior high school thing ever. Like junior high school, our bodies are going through puberty. Like I was a twig and then I got a bunch of curves, more curves than I was expecting. All of a sudden, probably more curves than an Asian would have usually, or Asian woman's expected to have. And that led to a whole new universe of comments by, my mom, my mom's friends of like, "Oh, why are your thighs so big? Why is your butt so big? You're such an American child." And like they're giving you American food and all that. But at the same time, like, let's be real. These are the same people who are like, "Have you eaten yet? Did you eat
Yeah,
anything yet?" Right? So it's like I want to own that there's a lot of confusing messaging there. But I started to question that. Like, my body was already changing. It was already awkward as hell. And here's
yeah,
a bunch of people giving me their opinions of like, this is too much. This is too curvy. This is too
mm,
big. And I think through that modeling, I learned to not be self-compassionate. I started to be like,
wow,
"Oh, like I'm not the
right,
typical Asian woman figure, like, therefore I'm not beautiful. I will never be beautiful. No one will ever love me. I can't date anyone." All those spiraling teenage thoughts happened, which admittedly still sometimes can show up as an adult
oh yeah,
as well. But it was actually making friends with people outside of the Asian community. So, like, my first Latin friends were the ones who taught me to love my curves. They're like, "Oh, yeah, that big booty, like, that's a good thing to have in our world," right? So, and just learning a different perspective, and I think that's what compassion first was for me. I'm like, it is a different perspective, right? Like, competition is one perspective. I don't wanna villainize that, it has a role. Compassion is another one, but we always get to choose between the 2, and I think oftentimes we feel like we're stuck with one because we don't realize there's a different perspective of like, "Oh, look, this thing that I like was in competition or like with other people in my mind that like I'm not good enough about actually can be a good thing if just depending on who I'm talking to."
right.
So I'd say that's one of the first times.
Yeah. Well, what
Mhm.
you're saying, I mean, it's a reminder of, again, like we're in systems that contribute to competition. Like, don't get me started on the competition of beauty standards, especially
Mhm.
for women. It's, I don't know. It's a
That's a whole other episode.
whole other episode, but I'm just thinking of this parallel when you were talking about like, oh, like yes, show off this, but also don't show off this. But in
Mm,
like, I mean, going off tangent just a little bit, just thinking of like the sexualization of Asian women,
mm,
where it's like we are showing off, but then also like we're
mhm,
not showing off enough.
mm.
We are like, it's just like what is ever enough when it comes to beauty
Yeah,
standards.
no.
It's such. I think that's something I think a lot of us, especially women of color, can relate to.
Mhm.
But I love that you had that experience. Shout out to your junior high friends. I think, like, no, seriously, like something like that should start like very young.
Mhm.
And I love that you were in a space that like supports that, with people who supported your body. Like,
Mm.
I don't know. I'm like, I feel like that's kind of rare when you're a preteen, when you're a teenager. Like, we're
Yeah,
all competing with our beauty standards and our body image.
yeah.
So I love that you had that experience, especially as someone who resonates with, being like a curvier Asian woman. So I like
Mhm.
1,000% agree with you and love that you went through that.
Thank you. But how about for you, Ari? Like, can you recall a moment when, like, you were able to discover that perspective shift of compassion?
Yes. I remember when we were, preparing for this talk, this was something that was hard for me to sit with because uh, for probably the majority of my life,
Mhm.
up until like 3 to 4 years ago, my default was competition. So that was like my
Mm.
everyday life. It was competition, not compassion. And what became a product of competition is like, yes, I was able to excel, succeed, like feel confident in who I am, but then it put me in this like constant hamster wheel of when will I ever be enough. um
Mm.
I remember thinking of this analogy of like climbing the sky, and it's like I climb through the sky, I climb through the clouds, I'm in space right now, but space is endless. When will this ever, no, seriously, so I'm like, when will this ever
Yeah, wanna
stop?
keep going. Yeah.
Well, I
Mhm.
feel like that for like most of my life. Um and unfortunately, but also fortunately, through that, I was diagnosed with a general anxiety disorder. So I got to the point where competition and anxiety was actually impacting me not only mentally, but then it showed up physically as well. Um,
Mm.
I had like rashes all over my body. I kid you not, I looked like chicken pox. I know
Mm.
some of my clients have gone through this as well. So if this is you, there's no shame. Like it's part of your body, like telling you a message.
Mhm.
Um, but I was so confused because I also got a biopsy for this as well. So a bunch of doctors studied my skin, and
Mm.
they still couldn't tell what this was, um, until like, I don't know. God bless my acupuncturist slash herbalist when I was like introduced to like Eastern medicine.
Mm.
She literally was like, "Oh, you have this because you're stressed and you're anxious," and I'm like, "Oh, what?" And she told me that in such a compassionate way,
Yeah.
like not in a way that's like you must buy like all of these creams and prescriptions in order to feel better, but it's like, oh no, you feel this way because you're holding so much like
Mm.
anxiety and tension there. So ever since like doing my work with her, like getting acupuncture,
Mhm.
like like taking care of my body more holistically, treating it more compassionately, that's when the my rashes eventually went away. That's when I stopped having panic attacks. Um, and also, it was again unfortunate, but also fortunate. Uh, because I was like always anxious, it actually put me in the ER one night. It was Christmas, actually.
Mm.
Yeah, it was Christmas. Christmas 2021. I remember that very clearly. Um, yeah, instead of eating dinner with my family, like I got a intense panic attack to the point where I thought it was a heart
Mm.
attack.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and my family took me to the ER. I did all these tests, and they were like, "Oh, we don't see anything wrong." So
Mm.
yeah, like literally all of this can happen just because you've accumulated so much stress, pressure, anxiety, like growing up. And it was at that moment, Christmas Day 2021, when I was like, this shit is serious and I
Mm.
want to take my healing seriously. And it was also, that was the day when my parents were like, okay, I think the messages we told her growing up Like we thought they were helpful, but I think we could see how we could have been more compassionate. So like I mentioned in the beginning as well, like we're kind of
Mhm.
co-creating what love means.
Yeah.
Um, we're doing that together. So I feel blessed for that moment in a weird way because it did bring me and my family closer together. It healed a lot of trauma between us, especially trauma around like I felt like I needed to succeed to receive love from them. Um, and I think just that whole journey is probably my most recent experience with self compassion. And then, yeah, then I think the rest is history because since that moment, I was like, I'm going to take my healing seriously.
Yeah.
I I don't care if I'm the best anymore. Like that doesn't matter anymore. What I care about is am I leading and serving in a way that honors like myself and my community
Mhm.
is my only metric. And ever since I let go of the metric of I have to be the best coach, I have to be the coach for first gens, I have to like
Mhm.
number one. Ever since I let that go, I was like, wow, I have received so much like internal peace in my
Mhm.
life. It also changed the way that I looked. Um, so yeah, all this to say is like
Yeah.
mental health is very it should be taken very seriously. Unfortunately,
Mhm.
a lot of research when it comes to mental health, especially in like Western medicine. Very unfortunate. But it is through compassion and yeah, for myself and even for my parents too, where I was able to like co-create love
Mhm.
and heal in a way that I never thought I would imagine.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for listening to
Wow.
my soapbox.
Thank you for sharing that because
Yeah.
it's not easy to share that, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
even I can imagine for someone who's like strived to be the best for so long, to share openly a moment where you were not your best takes a lot of
Mhm.
courage to share.
Poor
But I
girl.
love the yeah, so thank you for doing that, and, like,
Thank
I
you.
as much as I love to hear that that love is, like, a clear, we're not looking back, this is a turning point for us because, like, wow, even my body is yelling at me now that we gotta be kinder to ourselves in this process. Um, that, I didn't wanna wish that upon
Mhm.
you as well, and but it somehow, like, the thing that's I'm a little in awe about is, like, even in that process, you have been able to turn that even into a healing moment for you and your family, right? Because I hear you in that, like, to
Mhm.
have to relearn how to love our parents sometimes
Yes.
actually is both self-compassion as well as compassion for them. Because I think if
Mhm.
we don't make that effort sometimes, it's so easy to then hold all that resentment, to live off that resentment, and then I'm sure that manifests in very interesting ways in our physical body as well. And then
Right.
also, yeah,
No,
so thank you for sharing
seriously.
that. Yeah.
No, thank you. Thank you for witnessing and listening.
Mhm.
No, seriously, once you let that shit go, like seriously, it's not worth it. Let that shit go. And when you choose compassion, it just brings in so much ease, so much possibilities. It lets you see that there is no one way to do things and you don't have to be the best to thrive in life. It
Mhm.
actually allows you to see that you can just honor yourself and that's enough. That will always be
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I get it for a lot of I mean, I felt this way, I'm sure you felt this way, Ari, too, right? It's like there's a part of us that, like, our brain hears it, like, compassion will
Yeah.
give us access to a lot of things that we actually want: ease, happiness, relationships, connection, and everything that, like, we often say that is important to us or complain that we don't have enough of. But then there's the hard part of, like, well, how the hell do we actually do this, right? Especially as first gens when, like, the water we've been swimming from a young age is competition with others, is competition with ourselves, is competition with our past selves, right?
Yeah.
So I would say what was one of the things, if you can recall, that has been like a helpful practice for you to start leaning into compassion?
Okay. I love this question because we're like, okay, story time over. Let's I'm just kidding. But no, I love this because it's like, okay, then what does compassion look like? Because when we can share
Mhm.
what we've done, we can show what's possible.
Yeah.
I think for me, like it was really somatic work.
Mm.
Because I think competition and anxiety, a lot of that is in your head. Um,
Mm.
for the longest time, I felt like there was just so much pressure here, and I didn't even really notice how much pressure there was in my brain because it was such a default.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and um, and somatic work is actually the work that pushes the pressure from your head and like pushing it down to the rest of your body. Um,
Mm.
so it's really learn like doing breath work, meditating,
Mm.
yoga. Um, I'm sure y'all see that online. Y'all see that list. And there's a reason why you keep seeing these things, okay? It's because they do work.
Mm.
I cannot emphasize enough how actually when we do the somatic work, it connects us to our smartest self. Do you know how
Mhm.
mind-blowing that was for me when I realized that connecting to my smartest self is not accessing my brain?
I know. In a world that's like, you have to be intelligent, right?
Yes,
So,
your
mhm.
body holds a lot of intelligence.
Mhm.
So when you do the somatic work again, and you can, I recommend like trying different types of somatic work until you find a practice that feels good for you.
Mhm.
Like for me, it's like yin yoga. So like
Mm.
yoga where honestly you're just like chilling there for long periods of like self. It's like that. I also like receiving acupuncture. So like it's like
Mm.
physically dispelling the energy, like the tense energy from your body. Um,
Mhm.
but again, there's also breath work, there's also meditating, visualization,
Yeah.
things of that sort. Uh, but yeah, once I started doing that work, I started making decisions, like legit career decisions from my body instead of my brain. So if
Mm.
you want actual concrete evidence on why compassion is helpful, um, it was through somatic work where it allowed me to move things like slower rather than make rash decisions. Um,
Mhm.
so making decisions in a slower, more grounded place is actually what gave me more money. Um, I mean, I guess I'll use
That's so
this.
counterintuitive. Move slower to make more money, right? So
No,
it's
no,
not something
literally.
we're told at all. Yeah.
No, literally. I mean, I guess I'll give a super recent example. But the month of April was the first month I ever made my first 10K month in my business, which is so huge. That's like seriously some generation breaking shit. Okay, like I love. But the way that I got it was not through like it was not thinking my way through it. It was not like I must do
Mhm.
XYZ by this day and time. It was through building relationships, listening to my body, seeing if this relationship with this person felt good.
Mm.
It was through like when I was marketing on social media, like did my body feel good and align
Mm.
posting that content? Did my body feel aligned at the timing of when I posted that content? If it
Yeah.
doesn't, then it can wait. I can post it another time. So just like examples like that, where I'm using my body to tell me,
Mm.
to give me the discipline to make decisions, was when more actually came through.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not that you're not using your mind either. It's actually just a combination of everything: your mind, your heart, your gut, like literally all parts of
Yeah.
your body. So if we're just going to start with one way to access
Yeah.
compassion, I guess I'll just say, yeah, listen to your body,
Listen to your
create,
body.
create a
Mhm.
compassionate relationship with your body, because your body holds a
Mhm.
lot of that wisdom.
Yes. Yes, definitely. When I was listening to you, it reminded me of the phrase that people like to throw around, which is two heads is better than one, or two brains is better than one. I'm like, yeah, yeah, literally, we have our body, which is a form of a brain, and then our actual brain,
Yes.
which is intellectual brain. So I like to actually separate that sometimes for myself. I'm like, this is intellect and this is wisdom, and they can actually work together.
Ooh,
So, like, two brains together is better than making decisions with just one up here. So I
yes.
love that because so many of us in the first gen are taught to push through the toughness. Like I
Mhm.
have a love-hate relationship with the phrase resilient sometimes 'cause I'm like, we're all damn resilient, but like we
Yeah.
had to be, like there was no choice around that. But because of that, we actually lose the skill of how to listen to our body. So I love that.
Mm.
It's so funny because you mentioned yin yoga. You're not the first person to mention it. I will have that's a clue to me, like, I wanna try it out.
Okay. Oh, I love it.
I've never tried it, but
It's
I
like
would say somatically, I've done that a bit to reconnect with my body was actually through boxing. Like, I do see boxing
yes.
as a form of
Yeah.
somatic release for me. So, being able to feel my arms do things, being able to feel my legs carry me, being able to feel my big old butt do its thing, you know? So, it's like back to your point of, like, show appreciation and develop, like, a compassionate relationship with your body, then you can hear all the wisdom it's trying to tell you, right? Like, it is doing
Exactly.
so much for us on a regular basis. It is handling the stress before we have the words to say it out loud. So how do we like thank it and how do we be in communication with it for fairly important decisions we have to make all the time as a daughter, as a partner, as a a CEO or entrepreneur, whatever it is your role is, like that is one of the best people to have on your board, so to speak.
Absolutely. And a lot of times your body might actually just tell you to take a nap. That is an
Mm.
executive decision. What once I'm like, my body is part of this board that's gonna help me make decisions. So if my body tells me to take a nap, okay,
Yeah.
it's an executive decision to take
To do.
easy. But I'm also curious for you, like, do you have a self-compassion
Yeah.
tool or a method that you use to ground yourself in that?
Yes, definitely some of the ones you mentioned. I don't think there's only like one tool to get you there. It's honestly like takes a whole village to unlearn this big old competition thing that's been embedded in us and then to learn a new way. But for me, something I do for myself and something I do for a lot of my clients is rediscovering what our natural rhythm is. So like a part for me for authenticity is like how do we think about the terms like urgency? How do we think about the terms like consistency? Because I think for a lot of us, where we stop being compassionate to ourselves and in competition with ourselves is when we say, oh, I'm not moving fast enough. I'm not being consistent enough, right? We start to judge how we're
Mhm.
showing up on that. So for me, a lot of compassion practice is like kind of what you mentioned, like, what is my capacity today? Am I asking myself to move faster than I have to give because that will burn me out? And so that's one way to do it. It's like rediscover what your natural rhythm is so you know when you're off of it. So something I've discovered I kind of
Mhm.
knew when I was a 9 to 5, but bitched about a lot, but didn't do anything about was like, I am
Yeah.
not a 9 to 5 person. I am not a morning person. I will not get up and run kind of thing. And like when I became an entrepreneur, I'm like, oh no, I'll never be a successful entrepreneur because I don't have all these amazing, successful morning routines. I'm still successful in my own way, right? So like redefining my rhythm and my consistency as well to do that. And I think the other thing that I think has been really helpful, just as a verbal reminder, because I think for a lot of us, one thing we do really well as first gens is that we give a shit about the people around us. Like we really care for a community. We're taught that since the beginning to like watch out for each other. And I think that niceness that we've all been taught could actually be a way to help us reflect back and start seeing very clearly where are the gaps of that for ourselves. So simply put, if you're saying something to yourself like, fuck, I didn't do that well enough, or like I should have done that better. I
Mhm.
need to do X, Y, and Z. Ask yourself, would you say that to your friend as is? And if
Right.
the answer is no, don't say that to yourself. Right. So like give that same kindness that we're all so flexed on to express to each other, but we just have to develop the muscle to express that to ourselves as well. So that's the two I would share.
Yeah. Well, I
Mhm.
appreciate you saying that, and tell me why literally before this, my meeting right before this call was a meeting with my therapist, and we were talking about my rhythms.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, just 'cause, like, I'm sensing that in the coming months, like, it's gonna be kinda chaotic and hectic for me, and I'm like, um, I don't know, I'm always, like, in the go, 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 and sometimes I can forget to, like, take care of myself if there's a lot going
Mhm.
on. So, yeah, she encouraged that can I have not 30-minute breaks in between meetings, but can I have 90-minute breaks in between meetings? And I was like, "Oh my god, I can do that?" And it's like, yeah, I can literally do
Absolutely.
it. I can literally like,
Absolutely.
I'm to the point where I can literally make my own schedule, but
Yeah.
for whatever reason, it never like, the thought of having 90-minute breaks in between meetings just never came across me. Um, because there are some things that I still take from my 9 to 5 that I bring here. Like I'm like, oh, back to back meetings, that's normal. But then
Mhm,
the therapist was like, oh, but you have the choice to make your schedule
mhm,
whatever you want. So so yeah, that was like a couple hours ago. And actually before our call, in
mhm.
my calendar, I was like, I put this productive thing. And after my session, I was like, I'm gonna delete it. I'm just gonna chill before I talk to Betty.
Love it, love it.
I'm implementing that. I'm implementing like looking at my
Yeah,
day and like my workload compassionately as well. So yeah,
yeah.
the timing of that was just great.
Amazing. Yeah. We
Yeah,
all deserve to breathe. Our calendars too, in this
yes,
case,
100%.
so that we can. Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. Well, thank you, Ari, for joining me today. Like, I hope everyone listening got something out of it. And if you have a question about something we shared or you have another perspective, like, please don't be shy. Leave them in the comments. We will definitely reply to every single one. But we wanted just to like crack open one layer of this very heady conversation and hopefully to return us all back to our personal wisdom of like, yeah, none of us fucking like competition, but what's the other choice? And compassion is one of those choices. It's not the only one, but it is one that has served Ari and I and our clients really well. And we wanted to share that with you all today. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you again, Betty, for having me here. I had a lot of fun giving myself compassion too, especially when I had a brain fart earlier. I was like, I'm just a human, like it's fine. And then we just
Yeah.
back onto it and continue talking about compassion. So I had so much fun and I really love this chat.
Wonderful. And Ari, in case people want to reach out to you and stay connected,
Yes.
what's the best way that they can get in touch?
Yes, absolutely. So there are 3 ways. Definitely please connect with me, follow me on LinkedIn. I love building my community through here. You can also follow me on Instagram at Empower First. And if you want to learn more about my work in general, check out my website, empowerfirstcoaching.com.
Mhm.
And yeah, I would love to connect with you and continue this conversation then.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And for those who want to get in touch with me, my website's the easiest way to access me. So it's heybettychan.com. And if you're already on LinkedIn, stay in touch. I think the thing that Ari and I love most is actually just being in conversation with people as well. So again, don't be shy. Reach out. We'll talk. All
All right,
right.
thanks
Thank you,
so
everyone, for joining.
much.
Bye.